Thanks, Sam, and thanks again to everyone for joining us today. My name is Daniel Lund, and I'm a principal consultant here at Fronde, specialising in customer experience transformation. I recently delivered this presentation at the Salesforce One event in Melbourne, and what you're going to hear today is the same presentation, but with a bit more detail, particularly focused on the how of how you'll harness the power of Salesforce. So, Salesforce.com is an awesome product and company, and that's why you're all interested in it. It has understood the power of the world's customer mega trends around mobile, social, and collaboration, and it's really revolutionizing how business does customer relationship management. Indeed, Forbes has rated Salesforce as the world's most innovative company for the last 3 years, which is a pretty amazing result if you think about it, and think about the kind of competition it's up against. When Salesforce asked Forbes last time round why they've won this again, they were given the answer that it was because not only are they innovative in themselves, and as I say, they've really kind of rethought customer experience, but they've helped other companies to become innovative too. However, many companies are only making use of a tiny percentage of this innovation when they implement Salesforce.com. This means they're missing out on the opportunity to transform and make a real impact on their customers and the bottom line. Why is this, and how can you avoid this pitfall? So over the next 5 steps, I'm going to talk a little bit about the reasons for this, and how you can avoid these pitfalls. So, step 1. Understand the customer problem you are trying to solve. So many companies start their implementation of Salesforce.com with a grand vision for everything they might achieve: a transformed customer experience, greater levels of engagement and trust, supported by a more collaborative workforce, and a rapid rollout of innovation. It's all just so exciting. And it is tempting to just get started. Those licenses aren't cheap, and development of Salesforce just seems so inviting. However, too often companies start developing the technology without really understanding the problem they're trying to solve. They generally have a high-level view: low levels of customer satisfaction, loyalty, advocacy, pressure on margins, ineffective sales or marketing efforts, and so on. But these are really outcomes disguised as problems, not really the detail on what the issues and opportunities are from the customer perspective. So, for example, these might be inconsistent customer experience across different channels, particularly on low-value interactions and so on. The second common mistake is to think that they know the issues and opportunities, but from a kind of gut feel. And what I mean is that often companies are kind of scared to ask their customers, really get a kind of the outside in view, and so they think that they can get around this by having a few meetings with key individuals inside the company, and that will somehow be adequate as a substitute for proper analysis. But we say it is not. Although some of the thinking will be right, this inside-out view will typically focus on the business rather than the customer problems, and will not offer a fresh insight which is required to genuinely transform the customer experience. We recommend that companies invest enough time in the discovery phase to properly understand the problem they're trying to solve. This means, first of all, understand the customer segments you're targeting and why. You may have a good view on your customer segments, or you may not, and this can be done through analysis of your customer data. But if you're putting in Salesforce, perhaps you don't have a great view on that customer data. There are other ways of going about this, and it can start off with a kind of put down an initial set of customers and challenge what that's all about, and then start testing it and working around those segments, and then re-evaluating what those segments are all about. The second point is develop a voice of the customer for the segments to identify the specific opportunities and issues. So this will use customer data and feedback from existing within the enterprise, potentially sales and service history, survey feedback, and should also use insights from targeted surveys or social monitoring tools such as Salesforce's Radian 6. The third point there is understand the operating model that currently supports the customer experience to target where the changes need to take place. For example, in the channels, or potentially it's in the products and the brands, it may be in the technology or the information, or maybe it's actually about your people or how your organization is structured. We say that investing some time up front to get this discovery right saves time over the long run by minimizing your rework. More importantly, it helps to ensure that you're actually targeting the stuff that really matters to customers and your bottom line, and that saves more than just time. Tip 2, get strategic about your opportunity. An implementation of Salesforce provides companies with a fantastic opportunity to transform their customer experience. It brings innovation that helps companies rethink how they engage with customers across the customer experience lifecycle through mobile, social monitoring, and social integration, enterprise and customer collaboration, and so on. CRM is not what it used to be. However, companies can fail to think of the opportunity really strategically. Often Salesforce is implemented as a tactical point solution or as a lightweight trial solution to see how it goes. Either way, what typically happens is that the existing processes are simply rebuilt in a new system. Now, being tactical is okay where you have a tactical problem that needs to be solved, but clearly this approach will not make the most of all the innovation available. What you get is actually just a slightly improved process in a better looking system. The second common mistake is to implement the cool stuff without really understanding what this delivers in terms of business or customer value. Now, we all like cool stuff, and it has its place in terms of making an impact with customers or gaining user adoption. However, it is not a strategy in itself, and if it is not backed up by capability that really drives customer business value, then it will get dropped by both customers and the business. Therefore, we recommend that companies develop a clear and compelling strategy to guide their Salesforce implementation. And this means understanding how your Salesforce implementation is going to contribute to your broader business objectives alongside other customer-focused initiatives. It means developing a high-level design for your Salesforce implementation to add clarity. Now, this design should consider best practices and innovations across your industry and other industries, Salesforce.com innovations and insights from your voice of the customer, and then link this functionality back to the strategic objectives. It should also map the people, process, and technology components that will deliver the overall solution for you. The third point is around developing a roadmap linked to benefits that describes how the new capability will be rolled out and the benefits that can be expected. This will feed your business case and will be a critical tool for selling change to leaders and employees as you seek to roll this out. Having a clear and compelling strategy is the ready, aim, fire approach to implementing Salesforce. It doesn't have to take long and will provide a key reference point to guide your build and change efforts. It usually provides better results than the fire, ready, aim approach. Step 3, choose the right implementation approach for you. So Salesforce implementations have a great ability to create and deploy new functionality at speed and drive new business value. Being cloud-based and sitting on a common Force.com platform, new functionality can be turned on and quickly integrated into business processes. Because this agile project methodologies have been popular, enabling companies to incrementally build and deploy Salesforce solutions, whilst improving business engagement and gaining greater flexibility around the solution they're getting. However, in practice, there are many different flavors of Agile, and it sometimes, unfortunately, is used as a term which means that you have no control whatsoever. It is a flexible method, and it needs to be in order to handle project realities such as the cold, hard facts of scope, timeframes, and budget. The level of engagement the project is actually going to get from the business to complete the user stories, and the impacts of other business systems resulting from data and integration work, etc. These factors will determine the order, size, and pace of your sprints to develop the solution, for example. And when it comes to rolling out the solution, further factors come into play, including how will you deliver the overall strategy and roadmap from the previous step, the fit with the business cycle and other major events and projects, the ability of customers and business users to adopt the changes, and so on. These factors will determine the timing and staging of your rollout. Getting this wrong will directly impact your project risk profile, for example, around customer and user engagement, stakeholder buy-in, business continuity, etc. Therefore, companies need to properly consider the context of their Salesforce project and tailor an approach that they want to take to both the development and rollout to make your particular implementation successful. For one company, success may come in building 20% of the functionality at speed, then rolling it out to a core group of users and extending it from there. For another company, it might be build it right to a more complete solution and then roll it out to all users at once. We've seen both approaches work. We recommend that companies tailor their implementation approach to meet their specific needs, and this means first of all, identifying the risks, issues, constraints, and dependencies associated with the project and the solution for both development and rollout. Some will be easier to uncover and understand than others, and will range from the technical to the political, but all should be put on the table. The second point is around developing strategies to manage these factors and resolving conflicts between these strategies. You will need to get the right people around the table to prioritize compromise and develop creative solutions to these conflicts. It's not always easy to do this stuff, but you have to agree a way forward. The third point is around refining the approach you want to take for the development and the one you want to take for rollout, and putting in place the mechanisms to navigate the risks ahead for you. This includes building flexibility to refine the approach and as the project progresses. The development of your implementation approach is the first step in making your vision a reality. Proper planning, therefore, will give you the project the tools it needs to deal with the various competing realities. Step 4. Optimize the level of integration required with other systems. So while there is no doubt that Salesforce is expanding the boundaries of CRM and some of the functionality can be implemented effectively in isolation, in our experience, to gain real business value, integration with other systems is usually required. For example, to get a single view of the customer, or to deliver end-to-end processes around orders or cases, or in order to run meaningful analytics, etc. The problem is that integration isn't easy and it isn't cheap. Whether you use a third-party integration software, which is probably your best case, or you develop custom code, kind of point-to-point integration, which will require ongoing maintenance, or you manually rekey the data, that kind of swivel chair integration, as I've heard it called, which is labor-intensive but still surprisingly common. The pain is coming, and it's coming at some point. But despite knowing this, companies still too frequently make the wrong calls on the level of integration required for their Salesforce implementation. Underinvest, and you don't get the richness of insight or functionality you need. Overinvest, and you can be incurring a lot of cost and effort that yields limited immediate rewards. It's a bit like the difference between having gold in your iPhone and having your iPhone made of gold. We recommend that companies properly assess their options and select an integration approach which optimizes business value. And what this means is that, first of all, you want to understand how each of the proposed integrations contributes to your vision, and specifically how each drives quantified business benefits. Furthermore, increasingly companies are having to address the broader questions around cloud and mobility in order to tackle this problem. The second point is assess the build options for each integration, their costs and benefits. This will depend on a wide range of factors such as business process and data complexity, how easily the systems integrate, and so on. It may be okay to go with manual integration if the number of transactions is limited, for example. The cost of doing something better is too high, and there are higher priorities that you want to tackle on the project. Selecting a preferred option is the third point there, that is going to involve engaging with users and other stakeholders to confirm the way forward. This helps to set expectations around what will and won't be possible and why, and also shape the roadmap for future developments. So what I mean by that is that often this is where integration is where a lot of the tough questions get asked, and people have all kinds of expectations around what you're going to see coming in from other systems and what have you. And actually, by having this conversation up front, then you can set those expectations with people around what they're actually going to get. We feel that a business benefits-led approach to integration will bring clarity to what is being implemented and why, to help optimize the level of integration. Integrate well, but not too much. And step 5 is turn your team into advocates. So getting the right level of user adoption has always been a particular challenge for CRM. CRM systems have traditionally been too clunky for core users in sales, service and marketing who haven't been able to use them effectively in the moment. Thankfully, things are getting better. Salesforce, in particular, has led the way in improving usability of its tool. The chatter collaboration tool, for example, can be used to get non-core users engaged in CRM and CRM ways of working without them even really knowing it. However, despite the best efforts of CRM vendors, user adoption is still a major challenge. It is also the main reason why companies struggle to make the most of their Salesforce innovations. For example, in larger rollouts, there will often be pockets of users who circumvent the solution. They may even angrily reject it. This means you're not consistently getting the CRM basics in place, and at worst, it can mean a negative impact on productivity, staff morale, and possibly even customer experience. More common, though, is that users only comply with the new process, but do not really commit to the vision or new ways of working. If your vision is tied to greater customer focus, increased collaboration with the enterprise and with customers and so on, then this will not be achieved just through process compliance. A further emerging issue relates to the fact that cloud solutions like Salesforce empower the business to buy and implement technology without needing to engage IT services. All you need is a credit card and you can buy a license and get started, right? However, what we've seen is that without proper IT engagement, this can limit how strategic you can get. Once you need integration with other systems or effective technical support, then you need help from IT. So basically, ignore them at your peril. We recommend that companies engage in proactive and holistic change approach to get the most from their Salesforce implementation. What does this mean? Well, first of all, you need to understand your different user and stakeholder groups, and then tailor the change story and approach for those groups. The change story needs to weave in how the implementation contributes to business strategy and other customer programs, and how it will benefit customers, the company, and individuals. The second point there is about getting the leadership on board and aligned early on. And they need to really be signed up to champion this change. Get this right, and so much more will just fall into place to make the program a success. Typically, with these big enterprise-level programs, the number one reason for a failure of a project like this is actually around leadership engagement. The third point is around establishing dedicated change resources on the project with skill sets covering change and communications, training, and potentially all design and HR policy to really make the change stick. change should also feature in all project work streams. I'd also encourage you to get the change guides, particularly a change manager, engaged in the project as early as possible. As I said before, this is going to it's going to be important to get the leadership involved early on, and you're going to need someone to run that for you. There'll also be a change component to your problem analysis and strategy work that have come up in steps 1 and 2. The fourth point there is around delivering a people solution that will continue to drive benefits well after the project is closed out. This includes establishing owners at executive and management levels with accountability for the benefits, having SMEs and administrators to support the business, and the governance model in place to maintain quality and drive innovation going forward. Salesforce will be a great enabler of your CRM vision. However, the vision needs to be delivered by your people. Every significant CRM program needs to happen in the context of a broader business change. Turn your team into advocates. So that concludes the presentation for today, and I'd be interested in hearing any questions and responding to those.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And in fact, we already had a question being posted along the presentation, and I'll just read it out for you. It sounds like you're doing a lot of strategy and planning before you can get going. How long will a typical implementation take? And I think that is most definitely something a lot of people would be interested in.
Cool, thank you. So I think that the bigger you are as a company, the more complex and the more strategic you want to get with the implementation will necessitate that you spend more time doing problem analysis, doing strategy work, planning, and so on. As I said before, it is a solution, a system which you can kind of get going with, and there may be reasons why you'd want to just go and do this. There are bits of Salesforce which can be implemented in isolation quite well. There are things like the chatter technology, which I've seen at some companies. They kind of rolled out chatter before anything else. So it's possible to get going, but I would certainly recommend that you tackle all the 5 steps I've talked about here to a level which is appropriate for your organization.
Great, and there's another one which is a question that might be interesting to many of us. What type of roles, what departments in an organization should be involved in the planning?
Okay, interesting, yeah. So the planning, if you're talking about kind of overall planning for the project or program, I would suggest that everyone with a kind of touch point with a customer, every division with a touch point for customers. So you'll have a sponsor in, say, service, but you'd want to engage sales and marketing, and potentially areas like digital early on, and talk about things like your objectives for the program, and the major milestones and what have you. Once you have that kind of high-level roadmap pinned down, you want to get into some more detailed planning. Then you're going to have to talk with your HR and change people, because there's going to be a big people impact with the program potentially. IT are going to be key guys to get involved. You will obviously have probably a third party working with you on this, and they are the earlier you can bring third parties into the conversation, the more you can glean their knowledge around best practices and Salesforce innovations and how you roll this stuff out successfully. So I hope that's answered your question, but I think that depending on what you're trying to achieve, it will largely include those groups.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And I'm just conscious of time, so we might just take the other questions that were posted offline and follow this up after the presentation. Thank you very much again for everyone for dialing in. We appreciate taking the half an hour out of your lunch